الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Tonight we'll start inshallah the Arkan al-Salah. الدرس السابع أركان الصلاة, the pillars of the prayer, the pillars of the Salah. And last week we did Shurut al-Salah. Shurut al-Salah. And there's a difference between a pillar and a shart. The difference between a condition and a pillar. The first thing is that a condition, a shart, is kharij al-amal. Is not a part of the actual actions, before the action. So we have shurut al-salat, right? Shurut al-salat, they're not part of the salat, but they are before the salat. Before we actually stand and pray, there's some conditions that have to be fulfilled. For example, al-wudu, or facing the qibla, right? Or the person being a Muslim. Things that have to be established before the actual salat begins. Shurut al-salat. That's what we did last week. This week we'll do arkan al-salat, the pillar. The pillar is inside of the salat. It's an actual part of the prayer. That's the first thing. The first thing is a shart, a condition is outside of the action. And a rukn, a pillar, is a part of the action. Secondly, a difference between a condition and a rukn, a condition and a pillar. A condition, a shart, yastamir ila nihayat al-amal. The shart, the condition, has to be in place until the total act of worship is finished. Yani, if facing the qibla, facing Mecca is from facing the Kaaba, the qibla is from the shurut of the salat. That means the whole salat, a person has to face the qibla. There's no time during the salat where a person cannot face the qibla. Or if the wudu is a condition for the salat, there's no time during the salat that a person cannot have wudu. So, the condition has to continue, has to be in place until the act is finished. Whereas though the rukn, the pillar doesn't last, or is not continuous, as we see. You're not going to stay on one pillar throughout the whole salat. The rukn comes and goes, for lack of better words. The pillar comes and it goes. It's mawjood, is present at one point, and then that pillar is not present at another point. Then it may come back and it may leave again. Whereas though the condition has to stay from the beginning to the end of the salat. From the beginning of the salat we have to have wudu, and when we salam out we have to have wudu. There's no time during the salat that we cannot have wudu. Whereas though these pillars, they're present but they're not continuous throughout the entire salat. And it'll become clear, inshallah. Tayyib, the pillar. If a person intentionally leaves off one of these pillars, the salat is invalid. A person intentionally, it's important intentionally, not by accident or not forgetful, like that they forgot. They intentionally leave off one of these pillars, then the salat is invalid. And lastly, these arkan, لا يسقط عمدا ولا سهوا ولا جهلا. These pillars, they're not excused. A person is not excused from performing these pillars. Meaning if they intentionally didn't do it, they're not excused. The salat is invalid. Or if they forgetfully do it, it's not an excuse. They still have to perform that pillar. Or if they're just ignorant, they don't know. They didn't know that was a pillar. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse to leave off a pillar. And it's called the rukn. And to some of the ulama, they call it fard. Some call it fard. We'll say rukn, we'll leave it there. فقال رحمه الله الدرس السابع أركان الصلاة أركان الصلاة وهي 14. The Arkan al-Salat, they're 14. They're 14 pillars of the Salat that have to be fulfilled. And if they're not fulfilled, if one of the pillars is left off, then the Salat is invalid. If any of them are left off intentionally, somebody intentionally says, I'm not going to, for example, the first pillar, I'm not standing for Isha. I'm not standing for Fajr. And they have the ability to stand. Qiyam, the first pillar, Al-Qiyam is a pillar of the Salah. It's a pillar. It has to be fulfilled as long as the person has the ability to stand. So, these 14, there is no one dalil that says the Arkan al-Salat are 14. You're not going to find a hadith that says the Arkan al-Salat are 14, that the Prophet ﷺ said the Arkan al-Salat are 14. Because some other ulama, they say the Arkan al-Salat are 12. Some say 12, some say 14. But generally they come with the same meaning, more or less. So there is no one hadith, or there is no ayat, one single ayat that says the Arkan al-Salat are 14, as Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah says here. So the dalil for these, or to even say that the Salat has pillars, is from the same thing that the ulama used to say shurut la ilaha illallah, the conditions for la ilaha illallah, which is called al-istiqra. Al-istiqra, which is the extensive research that the scholars do, looking at all the ahadith and all of the ayat pertaining to the issue, and then they come up with a ruling once everything has been gathered pertaining to the issue. Not like a quick search, not a quick Google, not a quick 1-minute YouTube video. They do extensive research, everything connected to the issue, and then they come and they make a ruling on it. The Arkan al-Salat, just like the Arkan the Shurut la ilaha illallah, from al-Istiqra, and it's a form of dalil, form of proof, used by the ulama. So, even though they all have their individual adillah, there's a dalil for each pillar, it has a dalil for it. But there's not one hadith saying that there are 14. There's not one hadith saying that there are 14. So he says, firstly, Shaykh Abdul Razak, hafidhahullah, what is a rukn? What is a pillar? The pillar, as the ulama always do, they give a definition of the thing so that we know we're talking about the same thing. To make sure we're on the same page, they'll define what is a pillar firstly. الركن هو جانب الشيء الأقوى الذي لا قيام له إلا عليه. The strongest point of something. A pillar is the strongest point of something that thing can't stand except that the pillar is there. Just like a building. A building has pillars that hold the building up. The building can't stand without those pillars. So the salah is the same way. He says, وَإِنْتِفَاء الرُّكْنِ يَبْطُلُ بِهِ الْعَمَلِ. If one of those pillars is pulled away, if one of those pillars is not present, the action is invalid. The action is invalid. And he says the same thing, وَلَا يَسْقُطْ عَمْدًا وَلَا سَهْوًا وَلَا جَهْلًا. It's not an excuse. If a person intentionally doesn't do it, that doesn't excuse him. Salah is invalid. If a person accidentally doesn't do it, if a person accidentally, they forget to do one of these pillars, it's not an excuse to say, well, the salah is just, it's okay, we'll get it next time. Or if a person doesn't know, they didn't know, I didn't know that was a pillar. That's not an excuse to say the salah is accepted. All of these things have to be mawjood. They have to be present. لأن العبادة لا تقوم إلا على أركانها كما أن البيت لا يقوم إلا على أركانه. Because worship cannot be established except with the pillars, just like a house can't be established except that it has pillars to stand on. So he said there are 14. Al-awwal, the first pillar, al-qiyamu ma'al qudra, to stand. The first pillar of the salah is that a person has to stand if they have the ability. If a person doesn't have the ability, then they don't have to stand. But if a person has the ability, it's obligatory that they stand. So a person can't just come and say, I've been working all day, or on my lunch break, or whatever, I think I'm going to sit down for this one. They don't have the option. We don't have the option of choosing if we have the ability. If we have the ability, we don't have the option to choose an obligatory prayer. We're talking about the obligatory prayers. And the obligatory prayers, we don't have the option of choosing whether to, if I want to stand or if I want to sit. A pillar has to be fulfilled, and the first one, al-qiyamu ma'al qudra. And he started with this because the first thing we do when we go to the salah, after we fulfill the conditions, make wudu, face the qibla, Muslim has a brain of saying, after we fulfill all the conditions, first thing we do is we stand. So he says, فَمَنْ كَانَ قَادِرًا عَلَى الْقِيَامِ وَصَلَّ صَلَاتَهُ مَكْتُوبًا الْمَكْتُوبَ جَالِسًا لَمْ تَصِحْ صَلَاتُهُ. So whoever has the ability to stand, and he comes and he prays one of the 5 obligatory prayers sitting with the ability to stand, his salat is not valid. The salat is not valid لِأَنَّ الْقِيَامِ رُكْنٌ مَا دَامَ قَادِرًا عَلَيْهِ. Because standing is a pillar. As long as a person is able to stand, as long as a person has the ability to stand, then they must complete the pillar. قال تعالى, the dalil, Allah said in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 238, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى. Guard the prayers, and strictly the middle prayer. Guard the middle prayer strictly. Then Allah said, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. And stand. And stand. Allah said, and stand. And this is a command from Allah Jalla wa Ala. وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. And stand in the prayer qaniteen. And the asl of a command, the asl, the origin, if Allah commands us to do something, or the Prophet ﷺ commands us to do something, the asl, the origin is that thing that we have been commanded to do is obligatory. If Allah commands us to do something, we don't say a sunnah right off the bat. The origin is that if Allah commands us to do something, or the Prophet ﷺ commands us to do something, whatever they command us to do is obligatory until something comes from evidence to show us that it's been removed from the obligatory level to the level of sunnah, mustahab. But the original level of a command from Allah's Messenger is that it's obligatory until we have a sadif, until we have something that removes it from that highest level down to another level. And in this ayat, Allah commanded us to stand. That's the ayat. And then the hadith. في hadith, المسيء صلاته. It's translated, the man who prayed badly. The hadith, the long hadith, when the man came in the masjid and he prayed. Then he came and he gave salams to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ returned the salams and he said, Irja fasalli fa innaka lam tusalli. He told the man, go back and pray, for indeed you haven't prayed. So the man went back and prayed again, and he prayed the same way, and he came, the Prophet ﷺ, and he told him the same thing, go back and pray because you didn't pray. The third time the man came and said, this is all that I know, summarizing the hadith, so teach me. In that hadith, the Prophet ﷺ taught the man how to pray. So he taught the man the things that had to be done in the salah. So the Prophet ﷺ said to the man, قال إذا قمت إلى الصلاة فكبر. إذا قمت, when you stand to pray, kabbir, make the takbir. And in another hadith, قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, it's another command, صلي قائما, pray standing. It's a command, صلي قائما, pray standing. فإن لم تستطع فقاعدا. Then he alayhi salatu wasalam said, and if you don't have the ability to stand, then pray sitting. But the origin, he said, pray standing, salli qa'iman, and it's a command, and the origin of a command is that it is obligatory until we have something to show that the level of it being an obligation has been removed to a lower level. طيب. He says, Shaykh Abdul-Razak, فَإِذَا كَانَ قَادِرًا عَلَى الْقِيَامِ لَا بُدْ أَنْ يُصَلِّيَ قَائِمًا. So if a person has the ability to stand, then they have to stand. Unless they have an excuse where they can't stand. If they don't have an excuse, the person has the ability to stand, he doesn't stand. He says, وَإِذَا كَانَ قَادِرًا, if he says, إِذَا كَانَ غَيْرَ قَادِرًا عَلَى الْقِيَامِ صَلَّى جَالِسًا. If a person doesn't have the ability to stand, then there's no problem if they pray sitting down. If they don't have the ability to stand. Why? Allah said, the Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ فَقَاعِدًا. He said, if you're not able to stand, then pray sitting. فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ فَعَلَى الْجَنْبِ. And if you're not able to pray, if you're not able to sit, then lie down and pray. The salah, alhamdulillah, is never left off. طيب. So that hadith shows that a person has to stand with the ability, and if they're not able to pray, then they follow the hadith and they sit down. And if they're not able to stand, then they follow the hadith and they sit down. Or they can't sit down, then they lie down on their side. And this is in following the ayat. قال تعالى فاتقوا الله ما استطعتم. So fear Allah to the best of your ability. If a person is not able to stand, then he fears Allah to the best of his ability, or she fears Allah and she sits, or he sits. If they can't sit, then they lie down. طيب. He speaks about here the person, if this is a rukn that can't be left off, a pillar that can't be left off, if you leave off a pillar with the ability to fulfill the pillar, the salat is invalid. طيب. So he mentions in the next paragraph, what about the person who comes in the masjid, walks around the masjid, and he grabs a chair. He takes his chair and puts it in a specific place, lines up for the salat. He sits down and makes the takbir. Right? It's clear that the person walked into the masjid, he's able to stand. He didn't just walk into the masjid, he went and got a chair. He didn't just get the chair, he moved the chair to a specific spot, which shows he at least has the ability to stand to some extent. But then when it came to pray, he sat down and made the takbirah. He said, فَإِنَّهُ قُدْرَ عَلَى الْقِيَامِ وَمَعَ ذَلِكَ يُصَلِّي جَالِسًا. He had the ability to stand, and then he sat and prayed. And standing is a pillar, showing the importance that a person stands to the best of their ability. If they can't stand for the whole salat, they stand to the best of their ability. When you need to sit, then you sit. If you can stand, or she can stand, they stand to the best of their ability until they can't stand anymore. And then at that point, when they can't stand anymore, they fall under the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ. And if you're not able, then sit. But you don't start off sitting and you have the ability to stand. طيب. الركن الثاني, the second pillar. تكبيرة الإحرام. تكبيرة الإحرام. The salah, we say the opening takbir. The opening takbir. وسميت هذه التكبيرة تكبيرة الإحرام. It's called the تكبيرة الإحرام. It's the opening of the salah. And at that point, a person فلا يدخل الصلاة ولا يحصل التحريم إلا بها. A person doesn't enter the salah except that they make the opening takbir. So if a person is rushing in the door to catch the salat, they're trying to catch the ruku' before the imam comes about the ruku', and they're rushing, it's important to make sure that they make the takbir before jumping into the prayer. A lot of times kids do it a lot. Kids, they just run in and but they kids, we gotta teach them. So a person cannot enter into the salat except with the takbiratul ihram. طيب. He says ومن المعلوم أن المصلي إذا كبر فإنه بمجرد التكبير حرمت عليه أمور لم تكن محرمة عليه قبل الصلاة. So when a person makes that takbirah, the first takbirah for the salah, they say Allahu Akbar. Once they say that, once we say that, certain things become haram. Some things are now haram. They weren't haram before we did that, but now they are haram, impermissible. Once we make the takbir, some things are impermissible, like eating, drinking, talking, right? Things that have nothing to do with the salah. They become impermissible based on that takbirah. Not that eating and drinking is haram, or talking is haram, or sending a text message is haram, right? But once we make the takbirah, things become haram. Takbiratul ihram. Takbiratul ihram. So, once those things become haram, as it comes in the hadith, فَتَحْرِيمُهَا التَّكْبِيرُ. The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, فَتَحْرِيمُهَا التَّكْبِيرُ. The tahreem, what makes those things impermissible is when we make the takbirah. When we say Allahu Akbar. After we fulfill all the conditions, we're standing facing the Qibla. We stand, we say Allahu Akbar. There are a bunch of things that become haram now that were permissible before that split second, a second ago. فمن دخل الصلاة بدون هذه التكبيرة أو بلفظ آخر غير التكبير فإن صلاته لا تصح. So if a person comes to enter the salah and they try to enter the salah with something other than the takbir. Do we all know what the takbir is? Takbir? Huh? Okay. Takbir al-ihram. طيب. But what is the takbirah? Allahu Akbar. So if a person comes and they say something other than Allahu Akbar, they say Allahu al-Azim, la yadkhul as-salah. Right? They come and they say something other than the takbir, or they use whatever they use, one of Allah's names. Right? It says this person, if they say something Allah other than غير التكبير كالله الأعظم, they say Allah al-A'zam. Right? They're facing the Qibla, they have wudu, they're Muslim, it's time for the prayer. They fulfilled all the conditions, they have the ability to stand, they're standing. They come and they say Allah al-A'zam. So this person has not entered the prayer because he didn't begin with the takbir. The takbir is the statement Allahu Akbar. This begins the salah. The statement Allahu Akbar is the takbir that begins the salah. So the person who does other than that, they say other than that, لا تصح. The salah is not valid. لأنه لم يأتي بالتحريم الصلاة الذي هو التكبير. He didn't come with the thing that begins the salah, which is the takbir. Allahu Akbar. He came with Allahu A'zam. And that's not the takbirah. He says, when the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam عيّنا هذا اللفظ دون غيره. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam specified that we say Allahu Akbar. He specified that we say Allahu Akbar and that we don't say anything else for the start of the prayer, for the start of the salah. وفي الحديث, in that same hadith, he's going to keep repeating that same hadith because in the hadith, when the man didn't know how to pray, the Prophet ﷺ told him everything that he needed to know to make the salah. In that same hadith, he told the man, إذا قمت إلى الصلاة فكبر. فكبر. كبر. يعني say Allahu Akbar. When you stand to pray, say Allahu Akbar. طيب. That's the second pillar, the takbiratul ihram. So firstly, the person has to have to stand. They have to stand if they have the ability. Secondly, they have to make the takbiratul ihram with the statement Allahu Akbar. Thirdly, and we won't go into too much detail because this book is not meant to be very detailed. This is ad-durus al-muhimma li'amatul ummah. Important lessons for every Muslim. It's not designed to be a place that we discuss all of the differences of opinion on the issue, on all of these issues, especially when it comes to salat and other actions in the chapter of al-fiqh. There's a lot more we could say, but we'll keep going. Tayyib. Importantly, the takbir is the statement Allahu Akbar. Raising the hands when we say it is another issue. Al-Rukn al-Thalith, the third pillar. The third pillar that can't be left off, Qira'at al-Fatiha. He says, وَهِيَ أَعْظَمُ سُورَةٍ فِي الْقُرْآنِ. And this is the greatest surah in the Quran. وَقِرَاءَتُهَا رُكْنٌ فِي كُلِّ صَلَاةٍ بَلْ فِي كُلِّ رَكْعَةٍ مِنْ رَكْعَةِ الصَّلَاةِ. And it is a pillar in every prayer. Rather, it is a pillar in every rak'ah. Every rak'ah, al-Fatiha has to be recited. He says, وَلِهَذَا فَإِنَّ الْفَاتِحَةَ افترض الله سبحانه وتعالى على العباد قراءتها في اليوم والليلة 17 مرة. To show the importance of al-Fatiha, Qira'at al-Fatiha, Allah made reading al-Fatiha obligatory upon the Muslims at least 17 times a day. At least 17 times a day. And that's just including the obligatory prayers. Not including if a person prays the sunnah before Fajr, before Dhuhr, after Dhuhr. Just with Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha, a person has to read Al-Fatiha at least 17 times a day, showing the importance of Al-Fatiha. And in the more detailed books, showing the specifics and how serious Al-Fatiha is, the ulama have counted how many shaddas, that vowel shadda, how many shaddas are in Al-Fatiha? 11. And a shadda, every shadda, yani means that there are two letters in that place. If we have a shadda on the ba, I mean there's two bas. There's a ba with a sukoon and there's a ba with a vowel. So in the more detailed books they say if a person misses one shadda, then they haven't read Al-Fatiha. Serious. If a person misses one shadda out of those 11, they haven't read Al-Fatiha. And if they haven't read Al-Fatiha, they haven't fulfilled the pillar in that rak'ah. And if they haven't fulfilled the pillar in that rak'ah, then that rak'ah is invalid. The seriousness of Al-Fatiha. He doesn't mention that here, but to show the importance of Al-Fatiha, we at least have to read it 17 times a day. وصح عن نبينا عليه الصلاة والسلام أنه قال لا صلاة لمن لم يقرأ بفاتحة الكتاب. That there's no salah for the one who hasn't read the opening of the book, Fatihatul Kitab, بفاتحة الكتاب, meaning Al-Fatiha. A hadith أخرجه البخاري ومسلم. There's no salah for the one who hasn't read Al-Fatiha. And it has other names. وَمِنْ أَسْمَائِهَا al-Qur'an. It is also called al-Qur'an, the mother of the Qur'an, al-Qur'an. لأنها كما قال العلماء حوت إجمالا ما اشتمل عليه القرآن تفصيلا. In Al-Fatiha, and the tafsir Al-Fatiha is important, in Al-Fatiha is contained the general meaning of everything else that is mentioned in the Qur'an in detail. Everything that is mentioned in the Qur'an in detail is contained in Al-Fatiha in a summarized way. Al-Qur'an. So he says, if it is so important, Al-Fatiha is so important that we have to read it at least 17 times a day, at least, in those 5 obligatory prayers. And he says, if this is the case, and it's important to understand the meaning of Al-Fatiha. It's important to understand the meaning of Al-Fatiha, a surah that we read at least 17 times a day. He says, وَلَوْ نَظَرَ الْمَرْءُ مَثَلًا مَنْ بَلَغَ 70 سَنَةً مِنْ عُمْرِهِ وَبَدَأَ الصَّلَاةَ مِنْ صِغَرِهِ كَمْ قَرَأَ هَذِهِ السُّورَةَ فِي حَيَاتِهِ. If a person reaches the age of 70, and they started praying when they were young, how many times did they read Surah Al-Fatiha? Allahu Akbar. showing the importance of Al-Fatiha. How many times did a person read Surah Al-Fatiha, which shows the importance of Surah Al-Fatiha. And it's a pillar. A pillar. He says, in front of things that are unfortunate, أن كثيرا من العوام من عوام المسلمين, he says, يقرأ الفاتحة ولا يستشعر أن قوله اهدنا الصراط المستقيم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم دعاء. He said, unfortunately, we have a lot of people, a lot of the Muslims, they read Al-Fatiha all the time and don't even recognize that the statement, the ayat, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, is a dua that we make. Where we ask Allah to guide us to the straight path. It's a dua. وأنه بهذا يدعو الله بأعظم أمر وأجل مطلوب أن يهديه صراط المستقيم. And that the person with this, in this ayah, they ask Allah for the greatest thing, that Allah guides them to, that Allah guides us to the straight path. That Allah guides us to the straight path. And this is a rukn al-thalith, the third pillar that can't be left off in the salat. Firstly, that a person has the ability to stand, they have to stand. They have the ability to stand, they have to stand. Secondly, takbiratul al-ihram, the opening takbir. Thirdly, qira'at al-fatiha. Tayyib. If a person doesn't know al-fatiha, it depends on the person. I mean, a person may take shahada, they don't know al-fatiha. If a person, for example, they take shahada, they don't know al-fatiha. There's a hadith in Abu Dawood. Qala sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, a person came and he didn't know al-fatiha. So he said, teach me something that will suffice me in the place of al-fatiha. Qala alayhi salatu wa salam, qul subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, al-ali al-azim. A person says those adhkar, they say that they could in place of al-fatiha, but it's upon them to learn al-fatiha. Not that they suffice with that for the rest of their lives as Muslims, but right now it's time to pray. So what do? They say that right there and ask Allah to make it easy for them to memorize Surah Al-Fatiha. طيب. الركن الرابع, the fourth pillar. الرابع من أركان الصلاة الركوع, to make ruku', the bowing, that a person can't just skip a ruku', the bowing. قال تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اركعوا واسجدوا واعبدوا ربكم. O you who believe, اركعوا, bow. It's a command. It's a command to make ruku'. And it's also in the same ayah a command to make sujood. Allah says in another ayah, and that is Surah Al-Hajj, ayah 77. Allah says in another ayah, Al-Baqarah, ayah 43, وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ, and bow with those who are bowing. To bow with those who are bowing. And this is a command from Allah Jalla wa Ala, which shows that the origin is that it is obligatory until something removes it from that level. فالركوع ركن من أركان الصلاة لا تصح إلا به. That the ruku' is arkan. You can't, salat is not valid except that a person makes ruku' in every rak'ah. Another hadith, in the hadith, the same hadith, in the man who prayed badly, the Prophet ﷺ instructed him. He said, ثم اركع حتى تطمئن راكعا. And then bow until you are relaxed in that bowing position. Bow until you are relaxed in that bowing position. Yani, to have some sukoon. Stop, not just to tap and go. What do we say? حتى تطمئن. Until you are relaxed in that position. اركع حتى تطمئن. تطمئن راكعا. In the same hadith of the man who came and he didn't know how to pray. The man who prayed badly is usually translated. So that is the fourth pillar is a ruku'. to bow. The fifth pillar, والاعتدال بعد الركوع, to raise back up from ruku'. Meaning the person can't bow and ruku' and then go straight into sajda. If they go straight into sajda and they haven't come back up out of ruku', they skip the pillar. He says, أن يرفع من ركوعه حتى يعتدل قائما, that he rises back up, he comes back up from ruku' until he has stood up straight. He or she has stood straight. ويعود كل عظم إلى بقاره, so every bone, meaning in the back, has returned back to its natural position. There's no rush. We're not in a rush. There's no rush in the salah. We shouldn't be in a rush. طيب. The hadith, the dalil, how do we know we have to do all of these things in specific? The hadith, the Prophet ﷺ instructed the man how to pray. He didn't know how to pray. He said, Alimni, teach me what will suffice me, basically. So in this case, he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, after ruku', he said, thumma raka', he said, thumma rafa', and then raise back up, hatta ta'tadila qa'iman, until you have returned back to the standing state, the standing position. This is what he told the man. And there's also in that a command. All of these were commands that he told the man. He says, Shaykh Abdul Razak, Hafidhullah, he says, from the unfortunate things, أن في المصلين من إذا رفع من الركوع هوى إلى السجود قبل أن يعتدل قائما. So you'll find people, unfortunately, they skip the pillar. They skip a pillar. So when they come out of ruku', they don't stand back up all the way. They basically, maybe if they go up, they bend shwaya halfway and they go right into sujood. Without standing up, without standing straight up, they come up out of ruku' and they go right into sujood. He says, فَمَنْ كَانَ كَذَلِكَ فَلَا صَلَاةَ لَهُ. Whoever does it, then his salat is invalid. Why? لأنه ضيع ركنا من أركانها. Because he has skipped the pillar. The pillar, he has skipped the pillar that the Prophet ﷺ taught the man. After you go into ruku', the Prophet ﷺ told him to stand up out of ruku' until you return to the standing position. Whoever does that, they've skipped that pillar. Therefore, they have invalidated their prayer. And now he says, Shaykh Abdul Razak, وَمَنْ كَانَ بِعَمَلِهِ هَذَا وَقَعَ فِي سَرِقَةٍ هِيَ مِنْ أَسْوَإِ السَّرِقَاتِ. Whoever does this, they come out of ruku' and they don't stand up, but they dive, not dive, but they don't go into and stand back up. He said this person is the worst type of thief. This person is a thief, as they've been described. كما جاء في الحديث عن نبينا عليه الصلاة والسلام, as the Prophet ﷺ said, he described the person who came out of ruku' like that, and he didn't perfect the standing out of ruku'. The Prophet ﷺ said, أسوأ الناس سرقة, the worst type of thief, الذي يسرق من صلاته, is the one who steals from his own prayer. The one who steals from his own prayer. So the Sahaba قالوا يا رسول الله, they said, O Messenger of Allah, وكيف يسرق من صلاته? How does a person steal from their own prayer? It's a question. The worst thief is the one who steals from his own salat, or she steals from her own salat. So they said, well, how does a person steal from their salat? So the Prophet ﷺ said, قال لا يتم ركوعه ولا سجوده, that he doesn't complete his ruku' and he doesn't complete his sujood. In another narration he said, قال لا يقيم صلبه في الركوع والسجود, that he doesn't straighten his back in ruku' or in sujood. And this is, as the Prophet ﷺ said, the worst thief. So Shaykh Abdul Razak says, وَهَذَا النُّوع مِنَ السَّرِقَةِ أَسْوَأُ مِنْ سَرِقَةِ الْمَالِ. He said, the person who steals from their salat is worse than the person who steals money. The person who steals from their own prayer is worse than the person who steals money. لِمَاذا؟ لِأَنَّ الْمَالِ يَتَعَلَّقُ بِحُقُوقِ الْعَبْدِ. Because money is connected to the rights of people. وَالصَّلَاةُ تَتَعَلَّقُ بِحُقُوقِ اللَّهِ. And the salah is connected to the rights of Allah. وَحَقُّ اللَّهِ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى أَعْظَمُ. And the rights of Allah are greater than the rights of the creation. Not to belittle the rights of the creation, that people have rights and we don't have the right to steal from people, but the rights of Allah are greater than the rights of the people. طيب. So that is the fifth pillar. To return or to stand up after ruku'. To stand up after ruku'. As-sadisu, the sixth one, the sixth pillar. As-sujudu ala al-a'dha' as-sab'a. To prostrate on those 7 body parts. 7 body parts have to be prostrated on. And he brings a general dalil liqawli ta'ala, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, irka'u wasjudu wa'budu rabbakum. O you who believe, make ruku', bow, wasjudu, and make sajda, prostrate. Both are commands. Both come in the form of commands. طيب, he says, فَهَذَا أَمْرٌ وَالْأَمْرُ لِلْوُجُوبِ. So this is a command, and a command, the origin of a command from Allah or from His Messenger is that that thing is obligatory until something removes it from being a command. وَفِي الصَّحِيحَيْنِ. And then the 2 authentic books. The 2 authentic books are, does anyone know the 2 authentic books? Huh? Bukhari and Muslim. Even the Quran and Hadith, Sahih. The 2 authentic books of Hadith, I should have said. The 2 authentic books of Hadith, Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. The Hadith is in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. عن النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said, أمرت أن أسجد على 7 أعظم. I was commanded to make sajda, to prostrate on 7 bones, or 7 bones, let's say. 7 things have to be touching the ground when a person makes sajda in order for the sajda to be correct. 7, not 6 and not 5. He said, I was commanded to make the sajda on 7. He says, عليه الصلاة والسلام, قال على الجبهة وأشار بيده على أنف. The Prophet ﷺ said, al-jabha, which is the forehead. And then the narrator said he also pointed to his nose. As the nose and the face are one, the nose and the forehead are one, the nose has to touch the ground. This is not the explanation. This is what the Prophet ﷺ did when he was explaining to the Sahaba. In the hadith it says, Umirtu an asjuda ala 7 a'dumin. The Prophet ﷺ said, I was commanded to pray on 7, or to make sajda on 7 a'dumin, 7 bones. He said, ala al-jabha. He said, on the face, the forehead. It says, wa ashara biyadihi ala anfihi. And the narrator, the person who was there, who saw the Prophet ﷺ explain it, he said, when the Prophet ﷺ said ala al-jabha, the forehead, he said, well, and he also pointed to his nose. That's what he did when he explained it. Ala al-jabha, and he pointed to his nose. So the nose has to touch the ground. The nose has to touch the ground when we make sajda. Yani al-jabha wal-anf. And this is one thing, this is one. The forehead and the nose is considered to be one. The Prophet ﷺ said 7 things. Everything else that he said, they come in pairs. So it's going to be 2, 4, 6, and then we have the face and the nose is considered one. He said, وَالْيَدَيْنِ. The 2 hands have to be on the ground. وَرُكْبَتَيْنِ. And the 2 knees have to be on the ground. وَالْطُرَافِ الْقَدَمَيْنِ. And the toes of both feet. So we have 2 feet, 2 knees, 4, 2 hands, 6, and the face and the forehead is 1 and 7. So these 7 things have to be on the ground. As the Prophet ﷺ said, he was commanded to make sajda on those 7 body parts. So each body part takes its portion of the sajda. He says, وَإِلَّا لَمْ تَسِحْ سَجْدَةً. And if a person doesn't pray on all 7, then that sajda, not the whole salah, that sajda and that rak'ah is invalid. That sajda is invalid. And if that sajda is invalid, then that rak'ah is invalid. It can be fixed. It can be fixed, but it shows the importance of the pillars. It shows the importance of the pillars. طيب. He says, what we see from some of the people praying, من بعض المصلين إذا سجد تجده من أول السجدة إلى آخر السجدة يحك بإحدى قدميه القدم الأخرى إلى أن تنتهي السجدة. So sometimes people pray and they make the sajda. When they make the sajda, they put one of their feet on top of the other foot in sajda. So one foot is touching the ground, the other foot is on top. So he only really made sajda on 6 instead of 7. Allahu musta'an. فَهَذَا لَمْ يَسْجُدْ عَلَى السَّبْعَةِ. So for this person, they didn't make sajda on 7. Or sometimes people, both feet are off the ground. So they only made sajda on 5. And the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to make sajda on 7, to prostrate on 7, showing the importance of the pillars. The pillars cannot be left off. Tayyib. That was number 6, praying on all 7 bones. As-sabi'u. As-sabi'u. وَالرَّفْعُ مِنْهُ. To raise up, to come up from the sajda. To come up from the sajda. And briefly, 7 and 8, which 8 is al-jalsa bayna sajdatain, sitting between the 2 sajdas. So 7 is to come up from the sajda, 8 sitting between the 2 sajdas. Some of the ulama make these 1. It's 14, so sometimes it goes down to 12. Some of the ulama make these 1. So they say if you raise up from the sajda, then you're going to be sitting anyway. Right? But some say 7 based on the nusus, the text. Here he mentions 2, but sometimes you'll hear, and they might say 1. Tayyib, raising up from the sajda. Because the Prophet ﷺ said to the one who prayed that didn't know how to pray when he taught him, he said, ثُمَّ ارْفَعْ حَتَّى تَطْمَئِنَّ جَالِسًا. Talk about after the sajda. Then raise up until you're relaxed sitting. He says, وَهَذَا يَدُلُّ عَلَىٰ أَنَّهُ لَازِمٌ. It shows that it is lazim. It is obligatory. It has to be done, the sitting. And some ulama consider these 2, 7 and 8 to be 1. And 8, الثامن الجلسة بين السجدتين. The sitting between the 2 sajdas. And this is his own. فَإِذَا رَفَعَ مِنَ السَّجْدَةِ الْأُولَى جَلَسَ. If he raises up from the first sajda, he sits. And he relaxes. There's no rush. As we know, the one that rushes and he doesn't perfect his ruku', his bowing, he doesn't perfect his sujood, the Prophet ﷺ said he is the worst type of thief. طيب. So 7 and 8 are considered to be 1 to some ulama, and some of them break them into 2. I think we stop there, inshallah. As they're 14, we'll finish the last 6, inshallah, next week with the wajibat, as-salat, what is obligatory. As we have conditions before the salat, we have pillars, then we have obligatory things, and then we have things that are sunnah in the salat. So we'll stop on number 8, inshallah. As the first was al-qiyam al-qudra. A person has to stand if they have the ability. I have to stand if we have the ability. Secondly, we have to make the takbiratul ihram with the statement, Allahu Akbar. And if a person uses anything other than Allahu Akbar, the salat never started. They never begin the salat. The third, qira'atul Fatiha. There's a big khilaf, big difference of opinion on that. Big difference of opinion amongst the ulama, the scholars. If a person has to read al-Fatiha, if they're being led in the prayer, if the imam is reading, do you have to read? Big khilaf, big. We're not talking about the khilaf right now. We're talking about, as we were taught many times by a lot of ulama, Shaykh al-Majid used to tell us all the time, Shaykh al-Majid al-Subail, Hafidhullah used to always tell us, al-khuruj min al-khilaf awla. Al-khuruj min al-khilaf awla. That is, it's better for you when it comes to worship. If you recite al-Fatiha, your salat is not going to be invalid. If you recite al-Fatiha, it's not going to invalidate your prayer. But there is an opinion with dalil from ulama that if you don't recite al-Fatiha, the salat is invalid. So it's not going to hurt you to read it. You don't lose anything by reading al-Fatiha. You with me?
Talking in reference to somebody leading you.
Tayyib. The imam's leading the salat. Some of the ulama say the imam's qira'ah is enough for the people behind him. Therefore, the people behind them, they say they don't have to read al-Fatiha. Some of the ulama say no. Every person has to read al-Fatiha on every rak'ah, and that's what we're going with. The safe. Why? If you don't read al-Fatiha, it's dalil. And their dalil is, what? Your salat is invalid based on the dalil. If you don't read al-Fatiha, your salat is invalid. So it's not going to harm a person to read al-Fatiha. But if they don't read al-Fatiha, it's a possibility, it's a mumkin, that the salat is invalid because you didn't read al-Fatiha. You with me? They call that khuruj, and khuruj min al-khilaf. You have exited all of the differences. There's no different. Nobody differs that if you read al-Fatiha, that the salat is correct. But there is a difference of opinion. That if you don't read it, is the salat correct? Why dive into that difference of opinion? Go with safe recite al-Fatiha, and they call that khuruj min al-khilaf. And that was the third one, Qira'at al-Fatiha, with the greatness and the status of al-Fatiha. Al-Rabi, number 4, al-Rukur', that we have to bow, and we have to, number 5, also raise up from the Rukur'. That was number 5. So the Rukur' is number 4, and coming up from the Rukur', the bowing position is number 5. Number 6, sujood, making sajda on those 7 body parts. Those 7 body parts that we have to make sajda on. The head, the forehead, including the nose. Because the narrator said, when the Prophet ﷺ said the forehead, he pointed to his nose. So the nose is part of the sajda. This is a part of the sajda. The nose, the forehead, and the nose. The 2 hands, the 2 knees, and the 2 feet with the toes. The toes is to the best of a person's capability. You don't have to try to make every toe touch the ground, if that's even possible. Tayyib. As-sabi'u. Pinky toe is short. So. As-sabi'u. Number 7. Coming up out of sajda. Raising up out of sajda. And number 8, sitting between the 2 sajdas. Because we have 2 sajdas in every rak'ah. So we sit between the 2 sajdas. And some of the ulama say those are 1. And inshallah we'll finish from 9 to 14 next week, inshallah. Bidnillah. Question? Any questions?
Question. Now you leading the salat. The person is leading the salat. You said instead of diving in, go ahead and just go ahead and recite. You got to follow the imam. You haven't finished your recitation of the Fatiha. Just go ahead and follow the imam. Does it still count?
Does what still count?
Like, I might still be on Maliki Yawmuddin.
The imam is going into record.
Yeah, you're going to record. You haven't finished saying your Fatiha.
Yes, good. At that point, the Fatiha is dropped. The obligation of it becomes dropped because it's obligatory to follow the imam.
Sorry.
And that's part of the khilaf. That's part of it. But if that's the case, it's obligatory to follow the imam. So if you're not finished, you got to follow the imam. So therefore, the rest of the Fatiha is dropped off and the person follows the imam. If a person comes and the imam, they come late, they're reading al-Fatiha and the imam goes into rukur' and they're not finished at al-Fatiha, then the person leaves off the rest of al-Fatiha and they follow the imam. Following the imam is obligatory in the Jama'ah.
Also show that once a person enters and the imam sooner he went to rukur', so he will come and say Allahu Akbar and then go on rukur'. So his rakat is completed.
If he catches the imam.
Yes.
So
he did not read the Fatiha. So in these cases, the Fatiha is...
Or a man comes in the masjid, another situation, somebody comes in the masjid late. When they come in, the imam is already in the rukur'. He's already bowing. The person makes takbir, Allahu Akbar, and it's important, they make takbir to the ihram, to enter the salat. They make takbiratul ihram to enter the salat. Allahu Akbar to enter the salat, and they go into the ruku' and they don't read al-Fatiha at all. Yasqut, the same situation. Following the imam is obligatory, and it takes precedence to finishing al-Fatiha. Yeah, some certain way. I really don't want to go to, because this, inshallah, keep it simple for every Muslim.
I'm going to keep it simple, but, you know, we probably done talked about it. So now, you said, Takbir to the Quran, Allahu Akbar.
Right.
Then, that's entering you into the salat. Then you say Allahu Akbar, then go into ruku. So people, like, to make sure that it's the entrance salat, because you might just see somebody Allahu Akbar and then go right into ruku. You know what I mean? Do you have to say Allahu Akbar into the salat and then Allahu Akbar to go into the ruku?
That second one. The first takbirah, if a person comes, that first takbirah is the takbirah al-ihram to start the salat. So if we come late and the imam is in the ruku', the imam is already bowing, we don't come to the salat and do a takbirah for ruku'. The takbirah has to be to start the salat. The intention has to be, this is the takbirah al-ihram for the salat. Not the takbirah, because we have a salat, Allahu Akbar, we start the salat. Then we have another takbirah for ruku' before we go into ruku'. So the one who comes late, they don't do the second one, which is for the ruku'. They do the first one, which is for the salat, to enter the salat. And at that point, the second one becomes sunnah.
Now you gotta, the differentiate between that got to be with your intention.
The intention, a person's intention. You don't intend by your opening takbirah, the takbirah to ruku', the takbirah to go into ruku'. The intention of the takbirah to the ihram is the opening of the salat. The opening of the salat. Once we're in the salat, there are a lot of different rules after that. But we got to enter into the salat first with the takbirah to the ihram. Because we have the takbirah to the ihram, which enters the salat. And then we have takbirat for the changing of positions. And they have a different ruling. The takbirah that we say Allahu Akbar before we go into ruku'. Then we say Allahu Akbar before we go into sujood. When we come out of sujood, when we stand, there's a bunch of them. They have different rulings. The takbirah to ihram is to enter into the salat. The other takbirat have different rulings pertaining to them. So that's important to make sure the takbirah, the first one, is for the entrance into the salat and not literally for the ruku' itself. Allah.
Just be on time.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
That takbir is in rukun. The other takbirs are not in the rukun. So it's considered to be the sunnah. So like you don't have really to say Allah.
Right. At that point, the second one is sunnah intiqal.
And the sitting between, these are the arkan.
There you are. Inshallah, we'll do those next week. The wajibat, the obligatory things in inshallah ta'ala. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. Yes.
Some people who sit on the chair, sometimes they take the leg and put on the footrest. Like, there is a line on the chair in between. Take both the foot and put on that. Is the salah valid? Because when you
I don't understand.
this line on the chair?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Putting the foot on those.
Not putting on the ground.
Not on the ground.
Oh, Allahu A'lam.
So, because your foot is not on this.
Sahih. Allahu A'lam.
Qiyam is with the foot.
Yeah, he might stand up.
If you don't have any food, then that's another thing. But since the person has the food, so that comes in the qiyam. Whether it's sitting, that's a cause. Let's say, but his food, if he's
his foot is not on the floor.
He has to put the foot on the ground. Yes. Because putting there means you're not absolutely touching.
Allahu ta'ala a'lam. It's a good question now. جزاك الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك
في شيء ثاني انا سمعت اللي في حديث النبي